women's race was the better race of the day. 136 kilometers long. They have the same run-in just about with Le Tolfe, the last gravel sector, and then the same climb to Siena. They also have, I think, with about 77 k's to go, the longest gravel, or 77 k's done, the longest gravel section. There is a long road section in the middle of this race. And that's why, Benji, we saw with 38 k's to go, big group, SD Worx kind of controlling, Bastianelli and UAE trying to do something with Erika Magnaldi, and Live Racing were also trying to attack. I think that was their only option. But yeah, it was really with, like, if you were SD Worx, or would you have how would you have reacted to AVV destroying Vollering last week? I think you have to run it back with the same tactics and just say she was too good.
Yeah, I think so as well. And like when we analyze the parkour of Strade Bianche, we know that it's the harder climbs where AVV can do her damage on Annemiek van Vleuten. And that's where these other teams need to make sure they can get a bit of an advantage by either sending someone up front before those sections to make sure they've got someone with AVV if she goes hammering up those hills, or later on, for example, by numerically rolling over her with attacks in the sections between climbs and so forth and trying to get benefits there. But for now, like you said, at this point in the race, it were the teams that are not the highly represented ones, Bike Exchange, FDG, Live UAE, that were making the moves, and SD Worx was indeed controlling. It then came towards like the 24-kilometer from the finish line Strado section, Monte Aparti, and we had Van Vleuten doing the work herself there. She was moving towards the front when that Strado section started, and she started hammering it from the bottom towards the middle part of that. And I was scared. Okay, please, AVV, don't attack away at this point. We need an interesting race for the next 24 kilometers. And fortunately, Kopecky was able to follow our wheel quite well there. We saw that the group actually stayed quite together in the wheel of Annemiek van Vleuten. Paladin went for a move on the left side of the road, thins out the group again, doesn't get away though, and it kind of took until 2 kilometers later where we saw a move by SD Worx on not a Strado section. It was Demi Vollering that was trying to make a move on a asphalt uphill section, and it once again thinned out the group to 20 to 15 riders. And that's where a move came that I thought, okay, this one actually looks pretty good. It was Lotte Kopecky on the side of the road, and she actually got a bit of a gap, and it looked like Grace Brown was willing to respond instantly, but then she was taking her beat on or putting her beat on back, and then her chain had an issue when she was trying to attack towards Kopecky, and therefore she kind of made that move and then fell back to the group again. But Kopecky had a bit of a gap there moving on to the Colle Pinzuto. Did you expect that move to be an advantage for SD Worx by having a rider ahead for the gravel sections to come?
Yes, but I think what they wanted to happen, which is Van Vleuten having to chase, didn't. Because Cash, please, Niewiadoma, if AVV is in the group with you, never work. It is not your responsibility to close down SD Worx attacks, ever. And she was helping bring that group back, and eventually Kopecky was brought back. AVV did have to do some work, but SD Worx had numbers still. Kopecky, Mulman Pazio looks strong, and Demi Vollering. Chantal van den Broek-Black was a little bit off. Vollering and Chantal van den Broek-Black didn't look stronger than Mulman Pazio. Vos was getting dropped on the steeper gravel climbs, but she was clinging on. Grace Brown eventually seemed to start riding, I think, for Cecilia Uttrup-Ludwig, and the group started to swell, Benji. SD Worx didn't throw riders up the road. Now, they tried a few little things in the last 20 Ks on uphills. I would argue, if you want to attack AVV, the descents, when she's behind a wheel, is the best place. Put her under pressure there. But anyway, the group swelled. It got to like 15, 20 riders almost, Benji, with multiple riders. At least Shabby attacked for Canyon Shram, and that almost put Niewiadoma off the back. I think Niewiadoma had attacked on a rise. What did you think was did you think SD Worx would attack? I actually was really surprised that the group was so large and was just happy almost to ride to the finish. Or do you think they realized, Vos doesn't have it today, and AVV was also just happy to try luck on the final climb.
I think his D-Works was combining two different things. First of all, sometimes Vollering was spacing for the other, so it was pretty clear that Vollering was not going to be the one being a leader for that squad at that point in the race. And when it comes to the others, we saw Van den Broek-Blaak, just like last year, trying to get away in the same way she did last year, attacking between the climbs, get a bit of an advantage, try and get one rider with her, and see if that can offer up a gap. But it was basically always one rider following, and then Van Vleuten getting towards that wheel. A few riders following, Van Vleuten closing that down as well. And Van Vleuten was reacting on quite a few things. And then we know that the only proper gravel section coming up is the one that fits Van Vleuten, which is the Le Tolfe climb. It's that longer but quite steep section with 30k to go. And I was thinking if we get to that section, then Van Vleuten is going to smash up that hill and hopefully someone can follow. And they didn't really necessarily try enough attacking, I would dare to say, before we got to that section with SD Works. Perhaps they had the confidence that one of their riders could follow on Le Tolfe, and they came to that section. It's got this bit of a descent section before it starts ramping up quite steeply, and Van Vleuten smashed up Le Tolfe. As simple as that. And initially it looked like she was going to drop everybody, and then Vollering came to the front and rode next to her, and a bit past her, but then completely imploded. So Vollering completely out of the picture there. Then on the other side of the road, we saw that Kopecky is the only one at that point that's able to follow Van Vleuten's wheel. And I'm like, oh, Belgian flag out, singing the national anthem already at that point. This is it. This is Kopecky's rise to power. And I thought at some point she's going to break here in this wheel of Van Vleuten. Did you have high hopes here on the middle of the Le Tolfe climb for Kopecky?
Yeah, I thought Kopecky would make it over. I thought she'd then get dropped on the final climb, but that's still, I thought she could make it over, and she did. And then she sat in the wheel of AVV and even offered her a pull. But the collaboration, or I don't know, AVV didn't ride full like last week in Omloop, because they actually got caught after Le Tolfe by the big group again, and they started to get countered by Mulman Pazio, Shirin Van Anrooy as well. Grace Brown was there. Nuvia Doma tried again. And they're pretty much coming into the Via Santa Catarina as a huge group, despite, that's very rare in these races that AVV lights up Le Tolfe sort of climb with 10Ks to go, 13Ks to go, and that gets caught. So I don't know why that happened, frankly, because Kopecky was offering her a little bit, but maybe not full. And it was AVV from the base. Not even when they turn, they do the little zigzag from the base, almost from 700 meters to go. Rode this climb at a consistent pace. No attack. Just hard with Kopecky in the wheel, with Mulman there. And Kopecky's in the wheel. And I'm like, she's going to crack. She's going to crack. I thought 100% she was going to crack. A gap opened up a little bit. And you remember, if you make it over the top, it's very narrow and twisting in a descent in the last 400, 300 meters. Rarely does the rider who makes it over the top get caught. And Kopecky hung on. And they did this climb hot up to the Piazza. They did it in 1:28, 8 seconds slower than MVDP last year. They did this climb 7 seconds faster than Pogacar, because AVV did a consistent hard pace from the base, and Kopecky just hung on enough. She then closed. I remember Cancellara had a wonderful battle one year over the top in the descent section. She got around AVV, and once you have first wheel, if you're a smart rider, which Kopecky is, you should be winning this race on the descent. She took the last corner and made sure she went barrier to barrier, apex to the far barrier. AVV tried to come underneath, and there was no gap, and Kopecky wins this race. A huge win for Kopecky, beating almost imperious Van Vleuten last week, with Mulman third, Nividoma fourth, then Ludwig, Shabby, Vos, Longoborghini, Shirin Van Anrooy, and Persico, 10th. What a win for Kopecky, Benji. I think she's on.
Yeah, quite certainly. And it's not as simple as what a win for Kopecky. I think this is huge for Belgian women's cycling as well, because we've kind of had trouble kicking through the ceiling in women's cycling as Belgium. And this is the one big classic victory now that could be the start of new riders getting inspired to start becoming a pro rider, stuff like that. New riders breaking through as well. Kopecky getting a breakthrough in her own career where she can start winning these classics. So really impressive that way. And in all honesty, I did not believe that would happen on the Santa Catarina, that she would keep the wheel off on Vleuten. Absolutely insane. But
Crazy.
hey, it happened, and congratulations, because that was impressive.
Like Kopecky, for once, Benji, am I allowed to? Can I pat myself on the back just a little bit? I get so much wrong. I have to take a victory lap. I was high on Kopecky. I hope I'm not misremembering in the SD Worx preview. I thought she had a lack of team support and team support at Live, and SD Worx makes a big difference. Like twice second at Gent-Wevelgem, third at Ronde van Vlaanderen in 2020, fourth at the Olympics road race. This is the biggest win of her career. Strade ahead of Van Vleuten. It's curious though, Benji. She can hold the wheel here, but dropped on the Bosberg or the Murat Omloop. I don't. Maybe it's just different. Maybe she's just better week to week. I don't. Is there a theory to this? Because aren't these climbs harder?
There's multiple theories. You could look at the fact that she needed to get a few races in before getting to a level that
True.
she can achieve this. Or you can say, oh, she's better on asphalt/gravel climbs compared to cobble climbs, but she's been pretty good on cobble climbs before, so I'm not so sure how much that theory holds up personally. So I think it's the race rhythm that's doing it. And in all honesty, she's looking good for the likes of Tour of Flanders if she can keep this form, stuff like that, for every single one of those classic races, quite certainly. And now I'm curious, because I thought you were memeing it when you were talking about the hill classics for Kopecky in our preview, but it's more and more looking like she might actually play a role in that. But are
She's
they
winning
longer,
Liège.
those climbs? Okay. I still don't see it.
I think she's the trump card that SD Worx should try and protect over Vollering, because as we saw, you can't trust Vollering's sprint as much, and Kopecky's got a bigger kick on her. But yeah, a very, very exciting race, something I didn't expect to see, and fantastic to see the group coming together and attacks so late in the race. Kopecky taking Strade, and she's got Ronde van Drenthe next weekend. So we'll probably see, that's a World Tour race on the women's calendar. You will see the big guns lining up there once again. I think no Vos, but Elisa Balsamo we'll see back. But yeah, anything else from the Strade women's race, Benji, before we engage in some fierce warfare?
Well, okay. What did you think about Van Vleuten's strategy of keeping that same tempo on the final climb? Because on one end, you could say that she was spending it across a longer period, therefore not having the acceleration. But I'd argue that she's the type of rider that never really had that super explosive acceleration, always had it from keeping up high wattage for a long amount of time on the uphill sections and therefore punishing riders. But Kopecky was just too strong to be dropped on a length like this. Or do you think that she should have gone for one big attack instead of trying to keep it up from the bottom?
Well, yeah, 2020 hindsight, yes. I think she should have done a max 5-second effort on the steep section and been in good position behind Kopecky. I think she was getting gaps off the wheel when she attacked Kopecky on steeper gravel climbs earlier. And yeah, but that's just hindsight. So she did it in 128. Normally she'd be like, if I do this in 128, ain't nobody holding this wheel. So it's hard to criticize her for it. Maybe we'll see. I mean, it's what MVP did last year, but MVP got a huge kick. Only one man can stop Pogacar at this point, and it's me. So I need to get Rocky mode, insert Zwift training montage. I need to get started doing 125 watts for 40 minutes watching the finale of this race. But if you want to check out a Zwift event, Cancellara was the triple winner of Strade Bianche. And if today has you in the mood for channeling your inner Spartacus, Zwift have a chasing Cancellara ride over next weekend. You unlock a jersey for completing either stage. So make sure you check that out from our show partner, Zwift.